Good morning, Madam President and Senators. Ecclesiastes 7 and 5 states, "It is better to listen to the rebuke of a wise man than to listen to the song of fools." Senators, as you make your contributions, there will be times when you will be praised, but many times you will receive criticism and critiques. It is important to determine four things. Is the criticism constructive? Is the criticism coming from a pure motive, or does the critic have a personal agenda? Is it a fair critique? And can you learn from what is being said? Zig Ziglar said, "Don't be distracted by criticism. Remember, the only taste of success some people have is when they take a bite out of you." As leaders, I want to encourage you to treat criticism and compliments the same. Sometimes people compliment you because they want to manipulate or control you, while others may evaluate you to bring out the best in you. When you are criticized, examine the source, and you will be able to determine whether it is credible or not. Constructive criticism can assist in your further development and can make you a better person. John 16 and 33 states, "In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world." Norman Vincent Peale stated, "The trouble with most of us is that we would rather be ruined by praise than saved by criticism." Senators, the only way to avoid criticism is to do nothing. Aristotle. When you execute your duties, prepare well, and then do them to the best of your abilities. There are some persons who will critique others because they enjoy pulling them down and it makes them feel good. But there are other people whose evaluations will invite you to re-examine your work and strive for a more excellent way. Be determined to keep focus, to make adjustments when necessary, to learn from your mistakes, but to never allow anyone to cause you to become so discouraged or despondent that you will shirk your responsibilities and not serve your country well. Let us pray. Dear Lord, I lift up each senator today. Please give them the strength of character so that when the going gets tough, they will not lose focus and not give their best. Endue them with wisdom, knowledge, and discernment so that they will know who to listen to. In the precious name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Please join in the prayer of our Lord. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
The appropriation bill. Which one is that? Okay, good. Good morning, Senators. This is the morning session of July 22nd, I'm still in July, June 22nd, 2022. Before we commence this morning, I just want to, now that the chaplain has remained, just want to thank Madam Chaplain for her always timely meditation and her spiritual guidance. I just want you to know that the Senate appreciates you. And may God continue to bless you, ma'am, and keep you safe. And we thank you immensely. Honorable Senators, when the business of this House of the Senate was suspended last evening, The Honorable Senator had just completed his contribution, and we commenced with Senator the Honorable Ryan Pinder. We were debating the following bill, which is a bill for an act for the appropriation of diverse sums of money for and towards defraying the expenses of the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas on revenue account for the financial year commencing the 1st of July 2022 and ending the 3rd of June 2023. I presume that we are ready to commence. As many? The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Ryan Pinder.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and good morning to all my colleagues. Before I give my contribution to the 2022-2023 budget, I would like to wish my father once again, Leo Marvin Blaine Pinder, the former Member of Parliament for Malcolm Creek, which is now Elizabeth, and the former Minister of Local Government and Family Island Affairs, a belated Happy Father's Day. I also want to congratulate my father, Madam President, on being recognized by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, on being conferred the award of the Companion of the Most Distinguished Honor Order of St. Michael and St. George, CMG, for services to politics and business. Madam President, for those who do not know, my father was born of a fisherman who did all he could to ensure that his son, my father, was given every opportunity to succeed. From leaving home, small island of Spanish Wells, to attend Queen's College, and then Monroe College in Jamaica, and articling at Higgs and Kelly, and now one of the more senior members of the Bahamas Bar. He is also an accomplished businessman, having a number of successful business ventures and a farmer of more than 250 acres in Eleuthera. He is an example of being raised as an island boy in Spanish Wells and being an accomplished entrepreneur and a businessman of the Bahamas. He did this to do as his father did, to ensure his children had every opportunity to succeed, ensuring that me and my siblings had the education, experience, and the discipline to likewise succeed. My father is being recognized as a successful businessman and is also being recognized for his contribution to politics. My father was a progressive Liberal Party Member of Parliament for the Malcolm Creek constituency between 1987 and 1992. He was also appointed to the cabinet again as Minister of Local Government and Family Island Affairs. Yes, he served his country, but I know he is being honored for his strength and his courage in politics in a former political era, and that is why he is receiving this recognition of a Queen's honor. Strength and courage that I remember firsthand as a boy at that time. My father is being recognized for his contribution to politics because he charted the course. He paid the price for me to have a political future, for the PLP to be regarded as a more inclusive and more diverse political party in this country. Today, we find a political environment where the PLP had more diverse slate of candidates than the FNM, where the PLP has 3 members of parliament who are white, and more female representation than in recent history. We find a place where diversity is an accepted function of our democracy. This was the political contribution my father gave to this country. Madam President, I stand in support of this 2022-2023 budget presentation. The state of the country is good. We debate a budget today that charts the way forward, presenting a plan for recovery and a plan for progress. We present a budget that is intended to help lift the Bahamas out of an inherited economic crisis, an economic crisis brought on by the decisions of the former FNM administration. It is important to bring this context, Madam President, to demonstrate to the Bahamian people the policy intent behind the budget that we have presented as the New Day government and the policy objectives of our government. Bahamians would remember, Madam President, shortly after the former administration came to office, where the F&M at that time campaigned on the principle that VAT was the easy way out, that they disagreed with that form of taxation? Well, that same F&M government in 2017, shortly after that election, contrary to their political promises to the Bahamian people, increased VAT by 67%. This was a material shock to the economy of the Bahamas, slowing down growth, increasing prices for the consumer, and laying the foundation for 4 years of economic misery and a poor pattern of poor decisions. Additional poor decisions of the former administration compounded the economic crisis that our government has inherited. The decision to purchase the Grand Lucayan and then a failed sales process cost the Bahamian people more than $150 million. Even the chair of that special purpose vehicle appointed by that F&M government that bought the property and was responsible for the sale of the Grand Lucayan didn't agree with the former government's strategy. The decision-making during the pandemic, with hard lockdowns, arresting and citing Bahamians for trying to live day to day, shutting of businesses, all decisions that created this inherited economic crisis. Poor Hurricane Dorian disaster response cost Bahamian people millions of dollars with inadequate help to the Bahamian people at the time. This botched hurricane response to Hurricane Dorian further slowed the recovery for Abaco and Grand Bahama, further compounding the economic crisis. Madam President, I stand here to say we are all happy that it is a new day. Madam President, our path to economic and social recovery as a country starts with our blueprint for change. This is our promise to the Bahamian people. This is the mandate on which we were elected and the promises that we will deliver on. The promises in the blueprint for change form the basis of the way forward, a guide to formulate a plan for recovery and progress. Madam President, we have worked diligently since coming to office to fulfill our promises to the Bahamian people and to ensure that this budget lays the groundwork on the way forward to fulfilling our promises. Although we have accomplished much and intend to do so during this fiscal year, I would like to take the time to speak to a certain specific policy initiatives in this budget that will have a material effect on the lives of Bahamians throughout this country, that will have an increase and positively contribute to the quality of life of Bahamians throughout the archipelago. Madam President, the budget lays the foundation for a national infrastructure fund. This fund provides the framework to structure public-private partnerships for infrastructure development throughout the country. Optimizing the mobilization of private capital for infrastructure development throughout the Bahamas will increase the overall pool of funding available to invest in our country and to help with the recovery of shocks such as damages by Dorian and other natural disasters. A robust public-private partnership program will spur growth, job creation, and resilience to future climate events. Madam President, the National Infrastructure Fund will invest with private sector capital and partners in specific funds in specific areas. The Family Island Development Trust Fund. This budget lays out the most meaningful investment and commitment in our family islands in recent memory through the implementation of the Family Island Development Trust Fund. This will be a sub-fund of the National Infrastructure Fund that I just described. Madam President, we have allocated 10% of the overall revenue collected in the Family Islands from property taxes and road traffic fees to the creation of the Family Island Development Trust Fund, which is estimated to be funded with an amount about $200 million. This fund will facilitate the government in making immediate and significant investment in Family Island infrastructure through strategic private-public partnerships where government investment can be leveraged with private sector success. Madam President, the airport sub-fund. We will also propose to leverage the aviation-related revenue, inclusive to the extent permissible overflight fees, to create a fund for every aviation infrastructure, which would be another sub-fund of the National Infrastructure Fund. We would then be in a position to co-invest with professional airport developers and operators to properly invest in the logistic and touristic hubs of our Family Islands, our airports. As you can see, Madam President, in all examples under the National Infrastructure Fund, the government are real capital investors in the projects. We will get return for our investment. We look to expand this concept in areas such as renewable energy investments, a growth fund for Family Islands where government promote development of infrastructure for tourism, and a food security fund, Madam President, to promote the development of sustainable food production to improve self-dependence on exports. This food security fund will invest in aquaculture and mariculture in order to bring modern technology to farming and fishing throughout our archipelago. Our healthcare investment, Madam President, remember, these are all policy initiatives of this government that are meaningful to the quality of life of Bahamians throughout. If we have learned anything over the course of the last few years, the quality of your healthcare infrastructure is going to be a vital element to the sustainability of a nation. In this budget, through capital investment and the anticipated legislative reforms that I will discuss later, we are making a major investment in the quality of our healthcare offering to our citizens. In our Blueprint for Change, we made definitive and progressive promises in healthcare to the Bahamian people. This budget, the way forward, is evidence of the fulfillment of these promises that we made. We have provided $10 million for catastrophic health care in this budget. Every person in here, every single one in here has experienced situations where someone we know, whether it be a constituent or otherwise, needs serious medical assistance and can't get it because, frankly, they can't afford it, Madam President. This is an important step in addressing this and a fulfillment of a promise in our Blueprint for Change, and lays the foundation for providing catastrophic health care assistance to our citizens throughout the country. Improving our healthcare facilities across the country is a significant need. If anything was demonstrated during the pandemic, it was we require an upgrade in our healthcare infrastructure. This budget commits that investment and fulfills promises in our Blueprint for Change that were included specifically in our action plan to contain COVID-19, and urgently prioritized upgrading clinic and hospital infrastructure and getting resources to our medical professionals. Madam President, we have provided funding to capitalize the Grand Bahama Healthcare Development Company. This is the entity that will construct a Grand Bahama Healthcare Center, a new hospital. This is being facilitated through a loan for $150 million, which is now being finalized. We have also committed to upgrading the Rand Hospital to become an ambulatory surgical center, a side surgical center to the new hospital to provide comprehensive health care to the people of Grand Bahama. Madam President, this is not all. In the Family Islands, we have committed to construct 9 new clinics, each at varying levels of service, and modify or renovate 7 other clinics throughout the family of islands. Under the same loan and grant facility that we intend to use, the former administration planned to build or renovate 9 facilities. We intend to build and renovate 19 facilities, 9 of them being brand new facilities throughout our family of islands. That's how you leverage investment, Madam President. You double what they were intending to do. It's truly a new day, and we truly are paving that path and the way forward. Improving our healthcare system, Madam President, is fundamental for our people. Something that we have seen will touch each and every person's everyday life. Madam President, agriculture reform is likewise something that will touch each and every Bahamian. We have heard our Senate colleagues, especially those affiliated with BAMSI, talk about the importance of food security and some of their mandates and initiatives to ensure that we get there. I congratulate them on their efforts, Madam President. I am also very proud and want to congratulate my good friend and colleague, the Member of Parliament for South and Central Eleuthera, Mr. Clay Sweeting, on his tireless efforts to ensure that the country is advancing agriculture as an industry and doing so with the desire to feed ourselves. We are presenting some innovative investments and strategies for agriculture in this budget, and I want to highlight as ensuring we have food security as a fundamental policy initiative that this government sees as ensuring to secure the way forward and that will impact Bahamians across the archipelago. Madam President, upgrading our infrastructure in agriculture is fundamental to ensuring the industry can grow and prosper. The government is reviewing its packing house and processing infrastructure throughout the family of islands to support the farmers countrywide. The government has undertaken a material upgrade, for example, to the packing house in Hatchet Bay, which is now repaired and reopened for business. Madam President, it is important to note that this is a new vision of our packing house system. This is a packing house in Hatchet Bay that is going to be a vital instrument to the farming community of Central Eleuthera. Further to reopening this establishment, we are excited to announce that a new building and a multi-purpose center will be constructed on this site along with the packing house. This cultivation center will be the center for all agricultural activities in Central and North Eleuthera. This building will house a fully functioning processing kitchen, which will allow farmers to process goods that are unable to meet market standards into value-added products, such as jams, jellies, chips, flour, you name it. A training facility, Madam President, which allows BAIC, BAMSI, BAFSA, and affiliated international organizations like AICA to host training on the island that is vital for farmers as we look to increase our access to education in farming and to upgrade our technology capacity of our farmers throughout Eleuthera. This cultivation center at Hatchet Bay will be a model, a one-stop shop for agribusiness that will be a model and a pilot that we intend to roll out throughout the archipelago in our farming jurisdictions. Ensuring that the infrastructure is in place ensures that agriculture develops in a full circle environment, from the farm to the table, from the farm to the shelves of the store. That is the vision of agriculture for the Bahamas and our family of islands, Madam President. Madam President, we also note that farmers and any growth will require government support. That is clear. Countries the world over, rich and poor, make it a practice and a priority to subsidize agriculture to ensure that they have an element of food security. Look at any country the world over, that's what they do. Whether it be through tax incentives or direct subsidies, they subsidize agriculture to ensure food security. Madam President, we have made provisions in this budget to put together a viable concessionary regime for agriculturalists and farmers in specifically identified food security areas. For example, Madam President, we as the government believe that poultry can have an almost immediate catalyst to stimulate food production in this country. The investment in poultry, we heard it spoken by colleague senators earlier. We have a plan detailed in part in the budget to attract the best technology and processes to develop a full-scale poultry operation in the Bahamas. An industry. This includes a series of concessions that will be made available to help attract, finance, and invest in the sustainability of poultry production in the country. These concessions will include land concessions. BAIC and the Ministry of Agriculture have thousands of acres for agriculture development under their portfolio. We will provide electricity rate concessions to producers, and we will provide direct cash subsidies as found in this budget for the support of poultry farmers and producers. We have allocated $500,000 in direct cash support options for farmers. And we have likewise allocated over $1 million in grant funding to the SBDC for farmers. That's almost $2 million in direct cash subsidies to invest in the viability of food security in the Bahamas, Madam President. Home ownership, Madam President. Another element that directly touches the lives of Bahamians throughout this country. Home ownership is frequently said to be the most important investment that a Bahamian can make. Our blueprint for change has numerous references to our commitment to affordable housing for Bahamians and to facilitate the applicable concessions to make it happen. This budget prescribes the way forward for home ownership for Bahamians with innovative policy decisions, Madam President. The Department of Housing is undertaking an aggressive home building program since the election. They have opened the Pinecrest subdivision and have started on a housing development in Central Pines, Abaco. The Department of Housing is likewise proceeding with the Renaissance at Carmichael Housing Project. And I saw today, Madam President, there is a meeting to be held in Roxtown, Eleuthera, on the development of the housing program at Ocean Hall, Madam President. We are taking this outside of Nassau throughout the archipelago because home ownership, Madam President, is important no matter where you live. We are not Nassau-centric as a government, Madam President. This is the greatest investment in the family islands of this country that we have seen since independence. And we should be congratulated for it. I want to congratulate the Minister of Housing on her efforts. Jo Beth Colby Davis,
Thank you.
the Member of Parliament in my former constituency, Elizabeth.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
These efforts are incorporating public-private partnerships to be innovative, aggressive, and timely. As we know, the Bahamas has for years provided concessions for persons who purchase their home for the first time. That's good. But we are expanding these concessions, Madam President, so that people who purchase a home or purchase land and construct their first home or purchase a house and renovate it to be their first home will receive the same levels of concessions. Madam President, this is an important distinction and never has it been done before in the Bahamas. It's an innovative policy in light of the continued challenge that exists of gentrification and a lack of availability of reasonable priced houses to buy in the country. It is a market force that we find ourselves in. For those who are constructing or renovating their first home, Madam President, we are refunding up to $40,000 in cash for any VAT paid on construction services or materials purchased, once the occupancy certificate is received within an 18-month period. Madam President, this is the first time, I repeat it, the first time that a first-time homeowner concession is being extended to the construction of homes rather than merely just the purchase of a home. This is important as Bahamians who may be priced out of the market, or at least priced out of the threshold for the concessions, and who may have access to property, now have equal concessions to build on that property. We have likewise reduced the duty on construction materials to provide further concessions for those who want to build their home. Madam President, this is an important expansion of the concessions to Bahamians looking at their most important investment in their lifetime, their house. But that's not all, Madam President. We are also increasing the level of exemption for first-time home buyers from $250,000 to $300,000 and reducing the VAT on property transfers below $1 million. These are fantastic opportunities for Bahamians to have home ownership, especially the reduction in VAT on purchases below $1 million, Madam President. This provides a material concession to investment in real property, something all Bahamians look to do, and frequently the most secure investment a person can make in the Bahamas is real estate. So this concession, Madam President, for my Senate's benefit, isn't only available for a first-time home buyer, but if you have a home or you want to buy property for investment, whatever you want to buy it for as an individual, we have now graduated the VAT rates based on the value of the property up to $1 million, but a reduction in VAT rates below the 10% for all property purchases less than $1 million. Madam President, we are also increasing the real property tax exemption on owner-occupied properties from $250,000 to $300,000. These are all excellent positions for the way forward in home ownership in the Bahamas, Madam President. The most comprehensive and expansive level of concessions available to the Bahamian people for the acquisition of homes and the acquisition of property for investment in the history of the Bahamas, Madam President. Madam President, we also look to improve the fiscal performance of the country. The poor decisions of the former F&M administration created an economic crisis that was inherited. It is our job to chart the path to fiscal responsibility, Madam President. In this budget that presents the way forward, we demonstrate better fiscal decision-making, better policies and strategies that will rebalance the fiscal affairs of the Bahamas. We project, Madam President, our fiscal deficit will shrink to 4.3% of GDP, or $564.3 million. But let me give you a comparison. Remember that number, 4.3% of GDP. The prior administration ran the following deficits: 6% of GDP in the 2021-2022 fiscal year, 13.7% of GDP in the 2020-2021 fiscal year, 7.1% of GDP in the 2019-2020 fiscal year, all far above the 4.3% that we will run. Madam President, this is a remarkable reversal that will contribute to the way forward of the fiscal responsibility of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Yeah. What,
The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Reuben Remy.
Yeah, I want to stand on a point of order, Madam President.
What is your
that
point of order,
the
please?
Attorney General is misleading, misrepresenting the facts and numbers surrounding that, and that the full context is not being expressed to represent that. First of all,
Facts are facts. They're facts.
No.
Senator Remy, you're saying that he's not presenting the full facts with respect to numbers. Do you have an alternative view with respect to the numbers as presented?
yes, quite,
Pure numbers.
yeah,
Yes.
quite correct. Yeah, full
you-
numbers without explanation is also very
No. The numbers,
Pure numbers.
Yeah.
pure numbers. What are the numbers in alternative two?
Well, I would throw numbers that would also impact that number. One of them, which is
No. No. The senator.
yes.
No. I'm not going to get into an explanation at this point in time.
Thank you.
The
Madam.
question is, he presented numbers, pure facts. Facts are stubborn.
Yes.
So, do you have an
And-
alternative set of numbers? Otherwise, anything beyond that is your personal opinion.
No, actually, it's not my personal opinion as related
Okay.
to the deficit.
Let me ask you another. Let me ask you
Yes, ma'am.
question. Yes or no? Do you have alternative facts to the numbers?
The alternative facts to the numbers is
Do you have?
the content.
You don't have a valid point of order at this time, Senator Remy.
Let him finish the point,
Yeah.
Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Remy. Thank you.
Okay. No. I'll accept the president. All right.
Thank you,
Senator
Madam
Remy,
President.
Senator Pinder, can you please continue? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. 4.3% of GDP. That's our deficit. Your deficit was 6%, 13%, and 7.1%. Refute those numbers if you can. If you can't, sit down. Madam President, this is a remarkable reversal that will contribute to the way forward of this country. In addition, the debt as a function of GDP now stands at 87.5%. This time last year, it was 101% of GDP.
Right.
Fiscal responsibility and discipline will rebalance our fiscal affairs so that we have a measurable financial plan to address the inherited economic crisis that we came to see in September. Madam President, we also, as part of this budget, have identified areas of additional revenue that imposes the obligation on those who should pay. For example, Madam President, we are raising the ceiling on real property tax from $60,000 to $120,000. This will generally affect only the highest value homes in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. But this is a category that should bear more of a proportionate burden than the rest. We likewise are imposing VAT on yacht charter operations in the Bahamas, who otherwise had no obligation to pay value-added tax in the country. Madam President, these yacht charter operations generally cater to the wealthy. This is a fair tax as the yacht charters are performing commercial operations within our country. Charging VAT also, Madam President, evens the playing field between Bahamians and foreign charter owners. Bahamian owners of yachts under charter in the Bahamas would have to pay tax, while the foreign-owned vessels performing the same exact charter service in our Commonwealth escape VAT. Madam President, we are also working to ensure that our efforts in the blue carbon credits can start to be monetized in this 2022-2023 fiscal year. We are on track to start our scientific verification exercises and monetization of our blue carbon credits, Madam President. This is a fulfillment of our commitments in our blueprint for change and is a component of the way forward of fiscal responsibility in the country. Madam President, enhanced revenue, however, isn't only generated from broadening your tax base, but revenue is also increased from enhancing enforcement and creating frameworks to prevent fiscal leakages. In other words, tightening up the rules so persons don't take advantage of unintended loopholes that may exist. One example of this, Madam President, is our reforms with respect to concessions available under the Hotel Encouragements Act. As many people would know, real property tax concessions are available to hotels and for property owners who contribute their properties into a rental pool, using them as a hotel room, for example. This is to support the development of hotel properties, and it's a policy that I think both administrations would support. This includes those real property developers who also develop condo hotels, for example, that have become popular recently, and place residential homes in a development in a rental pool to be used as a hotel room. We have, Madam President, experienced circumstances where some properties are maybe placed in a hotel rental pool, yet they are very seldom rented out, thus taking advantage of the real property tax concessions, but they're not generating any tax revenue for the country. What we are doing is ensuring that the units that are rightfully operated as hotel rooms will receive the lawful concessions. But those that are not being utilized as hotel rooms will not get those concessions. This is merely enforcing the policy reasons underlying the Hotel Encouragement Act and providing a framework that's going to eliminate abuse. Revenue will increase as a result of this, whether it be revenue by real property tax collections that we weren't collecting prior, or revenue by VAT collections from previously underutilized hotel rooms in the system. Either way, tightening the rules around this loophole that resulted in unintended leakages of revenue to the government is being closed. And I commend my colleague to my left, Senator Mike Halkitis, for his innovation and his strategies to ensure that we maximize our collection of revenues and maximize the fiscal responsibility of this country. Madam President, in fulfillment of a promise in our blueprint for change, we are tightening the loopholes on real property tax collections. For too many years, people have ignored the timely payment of real property tax. In some situations, waiting until they subsequently sell their property to pay the tax. Most situations. We are now agreeing a policy position with commercial banks whereby when properties are mortgaged, the banks will collect and remit the real property tax as part of the mortgage payment. In fact, I currently do that with my bank. My bank that I have a mortgage with collects and escrows my estimated real property tax payments, and every year they pay it on my behalf, ensuring that I am compliant with the law. This should be, and the insurance. This should be widespread, and that is the intent of our policy position with the commercial banks, to make this a standard, not an exception. This will clearly maximize collections of real property tax revenue owed to the government on a year in and year out basis. Madam President, these are all tangible areas where through good governance and responsible enforcement, we can see an increase in revenue to the government without increasing taxes on the Bahamian people. Policies of economic rejuvenation and diversification, Madam President. Since coming to office a mere 10 months ago, the government under the leadership of the Prime Minister has been focused on providing a broader economic diversification platform for the country. Madam President, we immediately made decisions to responsibly open the economy and get Bahamians back to work. We ended the emergency orders. We ended the burdensome and ineffective COVID-19 protocols and restrictions. Madam President, we fully reopened the economy so employees could return to work and businesses could resume their operations. This immediate activity produced clear results, Madam President. Revenues immediately increased. Government surplus cash balance improved by almost $35 million in the first month alone. In addition to taking these immediate steps, Madam President, to rejuvenate and reopen the economy that resulted in immediate positive results, our government has in parallel, because we can walk and chew gum at the same time, taken policy and legislative action to diversify our economic offering, to offer a wider base of opportunities for Bahamians in our economy, Madam President. And with your leave, I'm going to take some time to highlight these opportunities that we created for the Bahamian people. Madam President, our government has successfully relaunched our Sports in Paradise initiative to diversify our tourism product. The major resorts of the country will tell you how important this policy is to fill their hotel rooms, to attract a component of tourism that is value added, Madam President. Finding additional sectors in our traditional economic pillars is fundamental to creating momentum and growth in the economy of our country. Madam President, we have likewise seen this with policy focus on fintech, financial technology, a diversification and broadening of the financial services industry, an industry that has been retracting for years. We now see the industry growing, Madam President, and Bahamian professionals maximizing their participation in the industry. Madam President, through the policy framework and continued focus on a digital asset industry, the Bahamas is quickly becoming the world leader in digital asset and related service providers. All of these initiatives, Madam President, broaden our economic stake and provide additional and new opportunities for Bahamians to participate. Our new policy to make the Bahamas a hub for digital assets includes a partnership with the private sector, the Central Bank, and the University of Bahamas, and the Securities Commission of the Bahamas to increase educational training and opportunities for Bahamians, thus providing a continued new opportunity plan for young Bahamians to be educated and take advantage of jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities in this new fintech space. Madam President, our government has likewise set the framework continued for economic growth and diversification through its leadership in climate change and sustainability. The development of a leadership position in carbon credits is not merely to provide a framework for revenues to the government, but it creates a new industry that will be vertically integrated and will present opportunities for Bahamians to participate in every element of this new economic frontier, Madam President. Bahamian scientists will be trained in the technical components to identify blue carbon sequestration in our waters. Bahamian financial services professionals will have opportunities in the new capital markets that come about and exist due to our leadership position. The leadership of the Bahamas, Madam President, in this area will positively contribute to the economic diversification of our country. Likewise, Madam President, it should not be underestimated the impact of the immediate commitment to construction in this country. Yes, we have discussed the impact of providing affordable homes for Bahamians as their most important investment of their lifetime. But equally important, Madam President, is the provision of employment to Bahamians in the construction sector who are building these homes. Because Bahamians are building these homes, Madam President. This was fundamental to the growth we have witnessed in the economy since coming to office. It is a difference in policy and approach, Madam President. We committed in every single instance to getting Bahamians back to work. And this has been replicated in many instances, focusing on needed projects that will get Bahamians back to work. Madam President, all of these examples contribute positively to the state of the economy of the Bahamas, to opportunities, new opportunities for Bahamians to participate, and for the proper management of our financial purse as a country. Madam President, I now turn to the Office of the Attorney General. I'd like to highlight some of our accomplishments to date and the initiatives that are to be implemented in the upcoming fiscal year.
Good job.
Thank you, my friend. The Minister of State, the competent member of Parliament for Centerville and that other place, appropriately gave an update on matters within his ministry, under his oversight. This includes the judiciary and the Department of Public Prosecutions, the Public Defender's Office, Freedom of Information Office. I may touch on some of these, but I don't intend on wasting my valuable minutes in this place to rehash his contribution. And frankly, it was such a good contribution, Madam President, I encourage all members to get a copy and read it.
Thank you.
Because then you will have a 2.5-hour speech from the Office of the Attorney General. Madam President, on the legislative agenda, what we do every day in this place, that falls under the purview of the Office of the Attorney General. I want to take the opportunity to recognize and thank the hard work of the Law Reform and Revision Commission for working tirelessly to ensure the government can proceed with its aggressive legislative agenda from day one, Madam President. See, this government didn't take 100 days off from the legislature when coming to office like the prior government. We went right to work for the people's business. I would like to take the opportunity right now, Madam President, to foreshadow some parts of our current legislative agenda that is under consideration during the first half of this upcoming fiscal year. The Evidence Amendment Act 2022, Madam President. This is fulfillment of a promise in our blueprint for change to address the needs of disaster victims to return to normalcy. It's right there in black and white. We hope to debate before we break for the summer, Madam President, this amendment, which will shorten the number of years for those that have gone missing in events of peril. This is a fundamentally important to bringing finality to scores of families across the Bahamas as a result of missing family members from Hurricane Dorian and allow normalcy to return to the day-to-day life. See, Madam President, currently the law is a presumption of death after 7 years of being missing. If you have family members who have perished and have gone missing in an event of peril like Hurricane Dorian, it's unequitable to cause for those family members to wait 7 years to receive finality in their lives with their family. It has imposition on insurance policies, estates, probates, the whole 9 yards, Madam President. This amendment seeks to rectify that issue in events of peril. Madam President, the Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill 2022. Consistent with our promises in our blueprint for change, we will shortly table an amendment to the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act to expunge the records of minor offenses due to violations of emergency orders, Madam President. The young men and women of the country who are trying to make a living, selling coconut water, doing what they could to scrap, to live during these lockdowns imposed by the former administration will now get a clean record, Madam President. They will have an opportunity to have a professional life ahead of them, not straddled by a police record due to them just trying to make ends meet. Madam President, a healthcare suite of legislation. In addition to the recently tabled Nurses and Midwives Bill 2022, we will shortly table an amendment to the National Health Insurance Bill and introduce a modern and comprehensive Mental Health Bill 2022. Madam President, this will be the most comprehensive healthcare compendium of legislation advanced in recent memory to provide a comprehensive framework for healthcare both physical and mental health care for our people, Madam President. Coming out of COVID, we know that many Bahamians have had adverse effect on their mental health care and mental state. We need to provide modern legislation and infrastructure to address the mental health care of Bahamians. It is something that is not a phobia, Madam President. It is a reality. And we will advance legislation, cutting edge, a whole new bill to address the mental health of Bahamians, Madam President. Cannabis legislation, Madam President. We will advance a comprehensive suite of legislation on the regulation of cannabis, creating a new agribusiness industry in the Bahamas. This legislation is internationally benchmarked against the countries around the world that are in this industry. We're not newcomers to this. This is actually a mature industry. Canada has been doing it for more than 15 years. The framework will be for the regulation of the medical cannabis industry from the farm to the border, and will provide a separate regulatory framework for industrial hemp, which is used for wellness products and for industrial uses such as clothing, rope, building materials, all made from hemp. We will also provide a framework for the decriminalization of possession of small amounts of cannabis products, Madam President, as part of this suite of legislation. Madam President, the Carbon Exchange Bill 2022. To advance the monetization of our carbon credits, we will be bringing to Parliament specifically drafted legislation to establish a carbon credit exchange in the Bahamas. The desire is to create a regulated framework that will establish the Bahamas as the regional and hopefully the global leader for the trade in carbon credits. We will participate in a vertically integrated carbon credit marketplace, Madam President. The Bahamas is a world leader in this matter. Madam President, the Mining Authority Bill 2022. A long overdue piece of regulatory reform has to do with the mining of natural resources in the Bahamas. The approach now is an industry-led approach without a modern regulatory envelope to ensure best international standards are being followed in natural resource mining. We also have commercial aggregate mining in the country, and we also have foreign direct investment in real estate development that involves mining. How do you think they create these marinas? They mine the land. We need a proper regulatory framework to ensure that the environmental sustainability is protected while having a sufficient balance for economic progression. We will be presenting an internationally best practice benchmark legislation to oversee mining in the Bahamas, another fulfillment of a promise in our blueprint for change, Madam President. The Nationality Bill 2022. We will advance appropriate legislation to finally bring equality to Bahamian men and women in the transmission of citizenship to their children, bringing a conclusion through law of the vexing issues that we experience of inequality in this country. And I'm glad my colleague, Senator Ellis, brought this up, because I'm sure due to her advocacy, the opposition will have nothing to say about this issue. An initial draft has been prepared and commented on internally, and we look to advance consultation after bringing to cabinet and ultimately tabling this in Parliament. And for those who may raise questions to this legislative action, let me be clear. The Constitution in Article 13 provides that Parliament, us, may make provision for the acquisition of citizenship of the Bahamas by persons who do not become citizens of the Bahamas by virtue of the provisions of this chapter in the Constitution. It's irrefutable. Plain reading of the law. Advancing equality when it comes to the transmission of citizenship is explicitly permitted through the legislative mechanisms of Parliament and we intend on using that avenue to go forward. We will bring an end to this vexing issue of inequality between men and women on the transmission of citizenship, Madam President. We are brave. Be brave, my colleagues, be brave. The Bahamas Strategic Investment Fund legislation. See, all this talk about not having a legislative agenda when we've been hard at work, Madam President, hard at work. Madam President, in our blueprint for change, we pledge, first, for infrastructure projects to develop PPPs to support community development initiatives, to strengthen legislation for a sovereign wealth fund, and a new sovereign investment fund to hold private sector investment interests. We all know the government owns shares in APD, for example, BTC, Alive, Cable Bahamas. Consistent with our promises made to the Bahamian people, we will advance comprehensive international best practices legislation that will incorporate the flexibility for the government to undertake all of our promises in this area, ensuring that the highest standards of governance are met in the administration of these different funds. The initial draft of the bill has been prepared and is being reviewed and refined to reflect our promises to the Bahamian people and to our commitments made in this budget for a national infrastructure fund. Madam President, amendments to the Antiquity, Monuments, and Museum Act and associated regulations. The government is seeking to update the Bahamas legislation relative to underwater cultural heritage by amending the Antiquities, the Monuments, and Museums Act along with its amendments to the associated regulations. The proposed amendments specifically relate to licensing requirements, costs, timeframes, geographical areas, and the current government licensing revenue split with respect to salvage licenses. Madam President, right now the government gets 25% of our assets that people dive up and take out of the country. We will reverse that. Yes. We will get the majority interest in our cultural heritage and assets that are under the water in this country. That legislation is currently under review and currently being amended, and we look to table that in rather short order, Madam President. Madam President, company legislative reform. This is an area near and dear to my heart as a commercial lawyer in this space, dealing with company matters in my private sector practice every day of my life, Madam President. Due to the rapidly evolving domestic and international economic and financial service environments, there's a clear need to improve the current law pertaining to the registration of companies, to insolvency, and to bankruptcy in the Bahamas, Madam President. In this vein, the government of the Bahamas, led by the Office of the Attorney General, has set a goal to revise the relevant law, inclusive of the Companies Act 1992, the International Business Companies Act 2000, and related legislation, the Companies Winding Up Amendment Act, the International Business Companies Winding Up Amendment Act, and the Companies Liquidation Rules, and the Bankruptcy Act of 1870. I said it, 1870, Madam President. Terms of reference are already been finalized, and we are prepared to appoint a project team made up of public and private sector individuals formed to overhaul the Bahamas registered companies, insolvency, and bankruptcy legislative regimes, Madam President. The goal now is to ensure that these relevant new proposed laws remain current, modern, competitive, and reflect international best practices. These reforms have the ability to materially change the Bahamas commercial offering in financial services and the commercial structuring markets. We look to become the nearshore Delaware for corporate structuring and reorganization, Madam President, a leader in this space. This has the opportunity to reform the commercial industry and economy of the Bahamas. Mr. Vice President, we have a distinct legislative agenda that is focused on fulfilling our promises to the Bahamian people modernizing our legislative and regulatory regimes, and make sure the Bahamas is at the forefront of innovation. We're not playing catch up anymore in legislation, Mr. Vice President, but we are leading, just as we should. We are being brave, and we are advancing progression through this Parliament and the legislative framework of this country. Madam President, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force and the International Unit, Mr. Vice President, of the Office of the Attorney General. Over years spanning multiple administrations, the Bahamas, that's already been, you heard the Minister of Social Services on the Sexual Offenders Amendment Bill. Yes. That has been drafted, that has been turned over to Social Services, and Social Services is in the process of scheduling consultations with the churches, the NGOs, and the public domain. I said these were initiatives in the first half of this fiscal year. That is done. Mr. Vice President, over the years spanning multiple administrations, the Bahamas has fought to be compliant in the international financial regulation. So much so that there has been concern raised across multiple quarters about overregulation and the resulting challenges of doing business in the Bahamas. It is a difficult balance, Mr. Vice President. The fact is the Bahamas must punch above its weight in this new era of international regulation. That's what we have to do. Our competitors may not, but we do. Recognizing this, when we debated in April, Mr. Vice President, I updated the Senate and the Bahamas that we are now compliant or largely compliant in 38 of the 40 recommendations of the Financial Action Task Force, which is the agency responsible for anti-money laundering rules. And we have been removed from the EU gray list a couple months prior to that. Since that time, I am pleased to advise of the timely submission of our re-rating of the final 2 of the 40 recommendations. Recommendation 8, which addresses not-for-profits, and Recommendation 15, addressing the effective regulation, supervision, and the monitoring of virtual asset service providers. This required some legislative amendments on financial services, not-for-profit, and digital asset legislation. And I want to thank all of my colleagues in both places. I want to thank all of my colleagues in both places of the legislature for cooperating, ensuring that we get this done to advance the common interest of the Bahamas and the financial services industry regulation of the Bahamas. We hope that come the plenary in the fall that our submissions will be favorably considered and we will be compliant or largely compliant in 40 of the 40 recommendations of the Financial Action Task Force. Punching above our weight, Mr. Vice President, that is what we do under this New Day government. I want to thank my international and compliance teams who took the lead in the Office of the Attorney General for all their hard work in getting it done. It wasn't easy, but we worked and worked and worked, and we were able to get it done. Mr. Vice President, on the civil chambers and the litigation side of the Office of the Attorney General. The civil side of the Office of the Attorney General is responsible for providing advice to all ministries and departments and agencies of the government. Both when there is a dispute against the government, we defend the government in court, and for the support of commercial matters that the government is a party to, any commercial matter that the government may be a party to. This is a significant amount of work and dedication of our hardworking team of lawyers in the Office of the Attorney General and their support staff, and I am deeply appreciative of their hard work and the expertise they bring on a day-by-day basis. I am pleased to also advise that as part of the supplemental budget, we are able to satisfy outstanding civil judgments that are due and owing for the first time in decades, Mr. Vice President. Again, I want to commend my colleague, Senator Michael Halkitis, for his cooperation and his efforts to ensure that this vexing legacy issue is addressed. Unconscionable amounts have accrued and are owing in interest and penalties alone. In some instances, the interest and penalties are more than the judgment that we owe. That tells you how long these outstanding judgments have accrued. Something that could have been avoided merely by timely payment of the debt that you owe. I think Senator Henfield made the point, and I agree. Or maybe it was Senator Ramming, I think. You expect to pay, the government expects you to pay them on time. The government should be expected to reciprocate, and especially when they're paying Bahamian citizens that they are rightfully owed. Something that I found vexing when I came to office, and I made a promise to myself, and I didn't know if it would happen. But it was going to be by the end of this fiscal year, I would deal with that vexing issue. And thank you to Senator Halkitis. Once he cuts the check, it will be dealt with.
Yes.
I also want to advise that we have undergone an aggressive recruitment exercise for new attorneys. We have to build capacity. You need to have legal capacity to be able to deliver top-notch service. The Office of the Attorney General is the largest and most prestigious law firm in the entire country. So we are always looking for bright and willing attorneys to join our ranks. We have received applications from qualified attorneys and look to bring those qualified attorneys to bolster the civil chambers and litigation section of the Office of the Attorney General. But that's not all. Be on the lookout. We are launching a secondary recruiting exercise for property and conveyancing lawyers. As you can imagine, the Bahamas government is involved in significant property transactions, and we need to build capacity internally to deal with those issues. For those looking to work in a dynamic, diverse professional atmosphere, I encourage you to apply. And I know my good colleague, Senator Ellis, if she wasn't doing so well in her current firm, she'd be first one here with an application to come over. Mr. Vice President, I turn to the Registrar General's Department. It is indeed a new day at the Registrar General's Department. We have committed to improve the ease of doing business that persists at the RGD. We recognize the challenges that exist and have the complete commitment to improve the service, the efficiency, and the deliverables at the Registrar General Department. This administration has appointed a new Registrar General, Ms. Camille Gomez-Jones, who will lead the charge on a number of projects and initiatives that will improve the customer experience at the Registrar General Department. I have spoken about the relocation of the RGD to the Financial Center to be a more professional and accommodating atmosphere, as well as the project underway to create an online delivery platform for services, both which are anticipated to increase the efficiency and the quality of service from the Registrar General's Department. I would like to highlight some recent developments and announcements, Mr. Vice President. Although the Minister of State made this observation, in this instance, I think it is important to say it again. I am proud to report that this administration will institute live birth registration at the 3 major hospitals in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. No more standing in line with babies at the Registrar General's Department. This not only is necessary for the safety, health, and convenience of new parents and their babies, but also is important to preserve the integrity of the system that guards against the abuse. We also look, Mr. Vice President, to amend relevant pieces of the legislation to ensure the services of the Registrar General Department are expanded and rights of Bahamians are protected. In the Bahamas, the current law is if you were born in the Bahamas and your birth is not registered within 1 year, you are not entitled to a certified copy of birth certificate. But what you are entitled to is a certified affidavit of birth. So you got to walk around with an affidavit of birth and can't get a birth certificate. Ludicrous. Ludicrous. This creates much inequities and potential avenues of abuse in the country, Mr. Vice President. You go and your child now is applying to school and they want a copy of his birth certificate and you give him some affidavit? Come on. We need to modern how we conduct ourselves in this country. We will look to amend the Birth and Death Registration Act so that the Registrar General will be able to register a birth at any time, having received sufficient satisfactory evidence of that birth, Mr. Vice President. No more affidavits. No more affidavits. That's the way forward. We also look to amend the applicable legislation, Mr. Vice President, to decentralize the services of the Registrar General throughout our family of islands. We look to implement a pilot program to give access to the family islands the same services as are available at the Registrar General's office in Nassau. This reduces the need to travel and save money for families. So you raise a question, Senator Henfield. It's a good question. What about Abaco? We will launch in Eleuthera first, Abaco second, and Exuma third as 3 pilot programs. 3 pilot programs. Once we get the pilot programs buttoned down, those are the highest population centers in our family of islands. Once we get the process buttoned down, we will look to expand it throughout the archipelago. We invest in our family of islands. We don't ignore it, and we are not Nassau-centric. Mr. Vice President, the Eugene DePuch Law School. I am also happy to give an update on happenings at the Eugene DePuch Law School, my alma mater, and the legal education facility that provides opportunities for many Bahamian professionals who otherwise cannot obtain their legal education abroad. It's fundamental to the practice of law and providing opportunities to Bahamians who may not be able to get on a plane and fly to London and have 3 and 4 years of education at their expense. You got a pupil for me already? That's done. As mentioned in an earlier debate, upon coming to office, I was made aware that arrears owed to the Council for Legal Education for the Eugene DePuch Law School threatened the professional career of the graduation class of 2021. They were not going to get their certificates because of the arrears owed. The Council of Legal Education refused to grant these certificates. Refused. The prior administration did not satisfy the amounts owed. There are almost $3 million in arrears owing. Upon learning of this, on the day I was sworn in, I went to the Prime Minister as the Minister of Finance, who helped create the law school, told him of the issue, and immediately $1 million was released so the students could get their graduation certificates later that week. Wow. Mr. Vice President, I am happy to announce that come the new fiscal year of the law school, all arrears will be owed will be completely satisfied, and graduates will never have to live in fear of not getting their legal certificate again, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Vice President, I'm also happy to discuss one of the most impactful activities of the Eugene DePuch Law School to the communities that we serve. It's Legal Aid Clinic. The Legal Aid Clinic provides hands-on clinical training to students in their final year, during which they assist with legal matters under the direct supervision of trained attorneys. In addition to providing this clinical training, which is important, part of the legal aid's mandate is to provide quality legal services to those who, due to financial constraints, would not ordinarily be able to secure the services of the private bar. The Legal Aid Clinic, with the support of the Attorney General's office, is launching a community-based legal aid project, the purpose of which is to provide access to legal services in communities throughout our archipelago. Again, we are not Nassau-centric as a government. This community-based legal aid project will incorporate an online virtual consultation service for instances where the requisite advice can be communicated using that medium. The platform has been designed already, and it is being implemented as we speak. The pilot program will be launched in the Centerville constituency. Technology is being provisioned. Financial support has been committed by the Bar Council. I thank the Bar Council for their cooperation, and a needs assessment is underway. The Access Legal online platform will allow for the following: the management of volunteers including legal professionals and support personnel who are vital to the delivery of these legal aid services. It will manage the submission and processing of legal aid applications, the facilitation of surveys and polls so that we understand the community needs, the electronic management of cases and case documents. They'll have their own integrated case management system in the legal aid clinic. The provision of virtual assistance with technology, literacy, and support. We will be launching Wi-Fi access in the communities in which we are looking to go. And the provision of ancillary services, including convenient online access to digital platforms, brochures, and public service announcements, so the wider community has immediate free access. We will be able to provide legal aid services to the indigent in Inagua, right here from Nassau, for free, to assist those in accessing justice in the proper form that they are able to have the opportunity to be treated and to have the access that we all do. In circumstances, Mr. Vice President, where a virtual setting is not appropriate, we have agreed to acquire a mobile home that will be modified appropriately as a mobile law office to provide the necessary legal aid within communities. We must ensure that our citizens throughout the Commonwealth have the necessary access to justice. That is a fundamental right that we as the government are tasked with delivering. We are fulfilling this promise through the necessary support to the Legal Aid Clinic. I want to thank again the Bar Council for their partnership in this endeavor and encourage their membership, all of their membership, to give their time and support to this program. Volunteer. Give your pro bono hours to the Legal Aid Clinic, Mr. Vice President. I know you are a competent and seasoned attorney, and I look forward to you volunteering and providing the service throughout our archipelago to the indigent and those who need it the most. The administration of the Office of the Attorney General. We have worked hard to ensure that the administration of the Office of the Attorney General operates effectively. We have worked hard to ensure that long-standing promotions are effected and agencies within the purview of the Office of the Attorney General are reorganized appropriately to maximize their effectiveness. We are also undertaking a subsequent review to ensure that everyone suitable who may have not, for whatever reason, been included in the last promotion exercise are involved in a subsequent promotion exercise, because equity has to remain within the Office of the Attorney General and its related agencies. Mr. Vice President, we have reorganized the attorneys in the Department of the Public Prosecutions. Prosecutors have returned to that office, and we are seeing increased effectiveness in the prosecution of criminals in our courts. The Acting Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Franklin Williams, QC, has implemented a new framework assigning attorneys to trials and courts. We have created a schedule to assign judges with strong prosecutors to handle major matters in a speedily fashion, expeditiously. In conjunction with this, we're pairing strong prosecutors with juniors who are being trained in how to manage and properly prosecute cases. This has resulted in more efficient trials with increased success in prosecution, something that we have a mandate to fulfill. Mr. Vice President, we also recognize the importance of providing the necessary benefits to legal officers. Legal officers in the public service, inclusive of magistrates, have been advocating for years for a contributory health insurance program. Lawyers in the Office of the Attorney General do not have health insurance provided by the government. Magistrates don't have health insurance provided by the government. This is important, and other areas within the service have this benefit. It has been a long-standing vexing issue of appropriate benefits within the office. I am pleased to announce, Mr. Vice President, that the Cabinet has approved a contributory health insurance program for legal officers. This is important in retaining our officers, our attorneys, and becoming attractive in the recruitment of additional attorneys. I thank this New Day government for this commitment and for satisfying a long-standing request of legal officers and magistrates within the service. It's a decent thing to do. It's the equitable thing to do. And frankly, it's the competitive thing to do. In the Office of the Attorney General, we are working hard to reward those who are most deserving, provide benefits that are competitive in the marketplace, and be equitable to our hard-working staff throughout. Mr. Vice President, as I conclude this debate, I want to say that I am proud to be part of this New Day government.
Me too.
I am proud to stand on my father's shoulders to do the best that I can to contribute to the betterment of this great country. I am proud of this budget, a budget that has provided a framework for the way forward for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. There are progressive and innovative policy decisions within this budget. This is a budget that seeks to touch Bahamians where it matters most, to reassure in areas of vulnerability. This is a budget that creates opportunities and hope. Bahamians can feel confident the way forward is favorable, is something to be embraced, and is designed to lift all boats in a rising tide. I commend the Right Honorable Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis on his leadership, his strength, his caring attitude for the least amongst us. I commend our Prime Minister for being brave when it comes to the difficult decisions, such as opening the economy, putting people back to work, and managing the pandemic based on science. Through his leadership and compassion, we are assured of a brighter future, and we are assured of a better way forward for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I want to thank my colleagues for allowing me this contribution. I know it was a little long, but I had a lot to say.
You did a lot.
And before I sit down, Mr. Vice President, I beg your indulgence to correct a matter on the record of yesterday. Both in the PR announcement by Senator Ellis and by the position on his feet by Senator Ramming. And I would like to read into the record and table a press statement that has been released today regarding the statement on taxi plates. The Ministry of Transport and Housing wishes to update the public on ongoing efforts to end the renting of taxi plates. Late last year, the government of the Bahamas confirmed its intention to modernize the transportation sector in the country. A critical component of this goal is to bring long overdue changes to the distribution of taxi plates. For decades, hundreds of industry participants have been unable to own taxi businesses as licenses have been under the control of a small group of persons, some who have inherited their plates. The government believes in supporting business ownership and the ability of taxi drivers to own their own business. Against this backdrop, the process has begun for dormant or rented plates to be recalled. It is the government's policy that reissued plates must be under the control of the persons who actually operate the business. The practice of renting plates must end. Following the conduct of an inventory assessment of taxi plates in New Providence, it was noted that some 90 taxi plates were inactive. The publication of a public notice by the Road Traffic Department was a proactive decision to bring order and accountability to the registration and distribution of taxi plates. It should be noted that taxi plates will only be recalled in accordance with the law. The Ministry of Transport and Housing wishes to advise members of the public that the lifting of the moratorium on the issuance of new taxi plates was not executed in secret. Consultations were held with numerous stakeholders, including the Bahamas Taxi Cab Union, with a view to achieving the government's goal, the modernization of the transportation sector. No. The minister has made that announcement numerous times in the other place. And I'm advised that upon the notice, some 30 dormant plate owners came in, satisfied their arrears, and kept the plates. And that happened yesterday on the notice. So legitimate taxi operators have a legitimate claim to their plates. And so this I table, Madam President. Could have been a clerical error. That is not what happened. That was not the intent. Yeah. And so I want to thank my colleagues again. Thank you for allowing me to clarify this issue on the record. And it's a new day. We are happy on the way forward with this 2022-2023 fiscal budget of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
As many? Oh. Thank you, Senator Ryan Pinder, for your contribution to the budget. The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Randy Roll.
Madam President, a pleasant good morning to you and a pleasant good morning to my fellow colleagues. Before I begin my contribution to this 2022-2023 national budget, Madam President, I want to take this opportunity to reflect on how important support is. You see, we break down and dissect the intricacies of a budget which will reflect the anticipated tax revenues and proposed expenditure for a new fiscal year. But are we remembering that the fundamental purpose of a budget is to provide support to a government who then distributes that support within the various government ministries and agencies, thus providing aid and support to the people. Support is shown in many different capacities, however. Politics has been a part of my life since 1986. And it started in Malcolm Creek, Marvelous Marvin. Madam President, my first official government posting was that of Consul General to Atlanta in July 2013, a post to which I had the humblest honor of being appointed by our former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Perry Gladstone Christie. His belief in me, Madam President, was stronger than the doubt of others. He has been and still is one of my greatest mentors today. I say to you, Mr. Christie, thank you for your bond, your friendship that will forever be unbreakable and unshakable. I also wish to acknowledge and publicly thank the people who pray God's continuous blessings and coverage over my life. My pastor, Bishop Neil C. Ellis of Mount Tabor Baptist Church, and Prophetess Sheena Morse of Breaking Boundaries Ministries, who have been my spiritual mentors. But what can be compared to a mother and father's love? To my beloved parents, my dad who lives in Bimini, a praying man of God and a pastor. By the way, happy Father's Day again. I thank you for being my strength. My mom, who lives here in the capital, who is also, as the young people would say, my A1 from day one. Who are both, Madam President, listening in right now, I thank you for your love and your support, and for installing in me, from my rough and humble beginnings, the core values that have molded me into the man that I am today. You know, when you first started in politics, Madam President, it's not easy. Certainly, you have to go through all of the unkind words people have to say and the lies and the character assassination. But through prayers and knowing yourself and God, all things are possible. To my family and friends, my loved ones, some of my good friends, Miss Brown, So much of you, too many to mention, both near and far, I thank you and I appreciate you. I now turn to the budget. Madam President, Mahatma Gandhi once said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Let me repeat that again, Madam President. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. It is always my pleasure to rise in this upper house to offer my contribution to discussions on matters of importance to this great nation. These matters under discussion all affect the one element that remains at the forefront of our mission to a successful governance, which is the people. The theme of our 2022-2023 national budget, Madam President, the way forward, was carefully and strategically chosen simply because it speaks to the rigorous challenges, mission at hand of this New Day government. That is a result of a previous administration that clearly wasn't familiar with finding themselves, as Mahatma Gandhi so accurately described. I wish to take this opportunity to extend congratulations to our noble leader, Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Edward Davis, for the stellar job he has done in executing the highest degree of excellent leadership within the first 9 months of coming to office. His unwavering commitment to tackling the tasks at hand and restructuring and rebuilding our economy must not go unrecognized. As a global relations consultant within the Ministry of Tourism, Investment, and Aviation, my portfolio entails building relationships within the global arena, while stimulously providing opportunities to showcase the Bahamas brand in the international arena and to communicate a myriad of opportunities for foreign investment that are available across the length and breadth of our archipelago, sorry, a little tight on it. An avenue for which every Bahamian will benefit. I wish to extend my gratitude to Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable I. Chester Cooper, Minister of Tourism, Investment, and Aviation, for affording me the opportunity to serve in this capacity. In conjunction with giving full attention to the priorities of this national budget, our government is working tirelessly, Madam President, to leave no avenue untouched when it comes to providing meaningful jobs and opportunities for the Bahamian people. With that being said, I am pleased to echo the sentiments expressed by our Deputy Prime Minister during his elaborate address contribution last Wednesday on the commencement of initiatives by the Bahamas Film and Television Commission, the responsibilities of which fall under my remit, to partner with international film producers to provide countless opportunities for the Bahamas to showcase its offerings in locations, talents, and investment opportunities to the world. This platform will bring to fruition the unfulfilled dreams of local Bahamian icons who contributed to the Bahamas performing arts and film industry for decades. A list of notable persons too long to mention at this time, but who deserve their flowers. On behalf of every Bahamian everywhere, we thank you. Artisans of the Bahamas, for entertaining our nation and paving the way, providing hope for Bahamians everywhere, echoing in each and every one of your performances, that no stage is too big for a Bahamian. Right. This Bahamas Film and TV Commission initiative will provide benefits to our economy by one, offering international and professional training to all Bahamians passionate about the film industry, polishing and seasoning and providing confidence to those of newfound interests. The specialized training will equip us with the experts we need to assist in the development of more local productions of the quality to be showcased on an international platform, enabling the Bahamas industry as the world and improve vital asset to our economy. Investing resources in our film industry will also increase the percentage of TV shows and featured film investors seeking to showcase our incomparable islands, attractive resorts, and touristic sites, benefiting our transportation industry and providing opportunities for Bahamians to work along in many different capacities, showcasing their skills and professionalism. Madam President, the cultural show that was held this weekend in Memorial Bahamian icon and extraordinaire, the late Sir Sidney Poitier, a tribute from our government hosted by our very own Minister of Foreign Affairs, titled Sir Sidney with Love, was nothing short of a performance fit for loyalty. That cultural memorial show was astonishing. The 2-hour event consisted of Bahamian dancers, singers, and live band performances that wowed the crowd, of which his family was amongst. Throughout the entire night, while the masters of ceremony strategically integrated and depicted the life of Sir Sidney through captivating recitals and narratives, a job well done. A night of reflection on Bahamian pioneer, the civil rights activist and actor, Sir Sidney Poitier. I want to quote an article posted on the 5th of October, 2021 by the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, better known as UNESCO. And it reads, and I will table it once I'm done, Madam President. African films, a booming industry. The widespread use of technology, the affordability of digital film equipment, and the rise of online platforms are enabling a new generation of African filmmakers to emerge. Reflecting on the vitality of African cinema driven by digital technologies, it reads on, also known as Nollywood. The Nigerian film industry, which produces around 2,500 films a year, is symbolic on this growth. The new technologies have enabled the emergence of a local production and distribution industry with its own economic model. The real game changer is the ongoing digital revolution, which started some 20 years ago and was accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic. And Madam President, our endless sky is the limit when it comes to what the Bahamas can offer to the global stage. We are finally coming to the realization that the industry of tourism is not only the main course that we can offer the world on a silver platter. Just look at Africa. That one industry generated $5 billion in annual revenue for their economy. When properly funded, Madam President, can you imagine the amount of revenue we can generate in a single industry with our talents and resources? Madam President, I want to quickly recognize, and I see here in the studio, the film commissioner, Mr. Clarence Rolls. So thank you, Clarence, for being here. He's been doing an excellent job, Madam President. Madam President, to underscore what I am saying about the potential of the Bahamas film industry, I wish to give you a report on the activities of the Bahamas Film and Television Commission. The Bahamas Film and Television Commission, on an average, assisted about 200 projects per year before the pandemic. The Commission's logic supports and the professional advice extracted 5 to 6 million annually from these featured films, television shows, documentaries, and still photo shoots. That is good results. But we can do even better if we provide the type of resources that will yield even greater results. From the international filmmakers whose audience enjoy the beauty of the Bahamas through their creative works. Madam President, this administration intends to get much more out of the film industry, which has so much to offer. Unfortunately, the work that is being done by our film professionals have been flying under the radar. Not many people know that there are a number of production companies on New Providence and Grand Bahama and other islands that earn a living through the film and television productions that come to the Bahamas. They are hired by non-Bahamian production companies to provide particular production services or to be product coordinators. They are the ones who hire extras or camera assistants, local managers, production assistants on behalf of these productions. So you can see that many Bahamians get involved at production earnings, end up spreading throughout the communities. So far for the year, Bahamian production companies have assisted productions such as Netflix, Empire, Bling, HGTV, Island of Bryant, which is based on Andros, and featured films out of Germany that has been in Nassau, Paradise Island, Andros, and Harbor Island. And those are just a few of the projects. The good thing about these productions, Madam President, is that this money spent in the Bahamas to complete their film or television show is just the beginning of the good news for us. There are many other benefits that come along with the direct cash injections. For instance, the James Bond movie, Thunderball. In shot in the Bahamas all the way back in 1965, possibly before most of us here were born. Do you know that this day we are still receiving substantial promotion awareness from that one film? And we are still receiving direct financial injections from it as well. Let me explain. When your destination is in a film, it helps to build desire to visit that place. So we get the benefit of more tourism due to these films, especially if it is part of a successful franchise like James Bond. So just a few days ago, from June 14th to June 16th, we had a dozen people who visited Nassau and Paradise Island as a direct result of the Thunderball movie. They came from the United States and from Europe countries for this Thunderball reunion. They toured the place where the part of the films were shot. They celebrated the life of the late Sean Connery, who was a long-time resident of the Bahamas. And Madam President, they spent money on meals, ground transportation, and souvenirs. So it makes sense for us to encourage the film industry, and this is what we are doing. We are not only going to encourage Bahamians to assist in non-Bahamian productions, but we are also going to encourage a homegrown Bahamian film industry to export our creative talents and culture. As I said, Madam President, we intend to get much more out of the film industry. And Clarence Roll, the Minister of State of Finance is here, and I'm sure that he hears our cries, and he will make necessary adjustments. We have been indoctrinated from childhood that there is no I in team. And the people of the Bahamas are witnessing that every day through the camaraderie of this New Day government. I want to congratulate the Minister of Agriculture, Marine Resources, and Family Island Affairs, who is also my dear friend, for the tremendous job he has done in his constituency of Central and South Eleuthera. Also for his commitment to assisting our leader in the Ministry of Agriculture, which is a vital industry for creating ways to increase our food security here in the Bahamas. Minister Sweeting mentioned in his 2022 budget presentation on the much needed relief expected to come to the vendors and patrons of Portis Key. And I am proud to piggyback on his commentary and now say to you, the talented and hard-working vendors who've made Junkanoo Beach their livelihood for decades, to the locals who make Junkanoo Beach their family day on weekend settings, that with the expertise, assistance of the New Day Ministry of Works team, that the blueprint for a modernized Junkanoo Beach is now underway. Another failed initiative attempted briefly by the former administration, and for reasons unknown, never made the pen onto the paper. Madam President, for far too long, we have watched the deterioration of our dearly beloved fish fry. Upon entering the area, the welcoming greetings that were supposed to broadcast, come experience our cuisine and culture, is no longer. Nope. Sometimes the unkept surroundings and constant stench of everything we consume and give back to the earth reeks in the atmosphere and without a doubt contributes to desperate need for a new cultural and touristic atmosphere. Our Deputy Prime Minister is elated and has already embarked on this foreseeable initiative, Madam President, and under his leadership and modernization of our Junkanoo Beach, we will rebirth the air of an iconic culture. In the blueprint for this new revitalization Junkanoo Beach, we expect to construct durable stalls to withstand tropical depression and inclement weather. We also noted that critical to the position adequate sewage and drainage in the immediate area in the event of high tides and uncontrollable, unforeseen phenomena, just to list a few. We have heard the reports, personally assessed, and witnessed the unauthorized vendors operating at Junkanoo Beach, and determined that it will be no more. While we no way aim to take bread out of the mouths of our people, we will not let the matter linger and stand in our way to provide fairness to those that went about obtaining their license, contracts, and approvals the right way. We will have frequent inspections to ensure that those who are operating are registered vendors for Junkanoo Beach, finally implementing structure and fairness. Madam President, that is just a few of the many changes to come for the reconstruction of our downtown area. That will be a cherry on the top for the opening of our 60% completed new state-of-the-art cruise port. I also wish to add that the Deputy Prime Minister, along with the minister, myself, had visited Cabbage Beach recently, and the work has already started in providing a more work-friendly environment for the vendors on that beach as promised. The porta potties are up and functional as I speak, and I want you to know that this is just the beginning of all the changes that are to come as it relates to that area. My role doesn't just stop there, Madam President. I continue to challenge myself to be the voice that will bring the day-to-day concerns of the Bahamian people to this upper house, so that our government will always be abreast and rapidly find relief for the people as outlined in our blueprint for change. Our Davis administration heard the wails and felt the struggles of the hopeless Bahamians, people who were left defenseless by the previous administration, some with no roof over their heads, Madam President, others in no way, shape, or form able to manage the inflation of day-to-day necessities in our country due to the global issue, hence going without. How did they survive, Madam President? Only God. Reduction on import on food, necessities, and healthy foods. The Bahamian people deserve to be commended, however. They did their part. They held on, they showed up, and they voted out. Now our government is doing our part, as promised. We plan for a recovery, and the time is now. Not later, Madam President. Now for the Bahamian people to reap the benefit of the ongoing progress. The inflation had everyone, even myself, at a point where I had to make the unsettling decision of what do I keep and what should I put back. I remember, and Senator Hensfield, coming from back home and going to the food store. There was a young lady, she was before me. And as she got to the register, she started counting things and putting it in the tray and then taking it out. And as she put in the cornflakes, she took out the milk and her son was right there. He's like, "Mommy, I need the milk." And she's like, "You gotta use cream." And so this was the reality of what people were being faced with. And so, this is what we deal with. But I am delighted, though, and Madam President, to brag that with the utmost pleasure, I will be happy to know that we will all be able to visit the stores and not have to have the choice and decide what to put back and what to keep, because affordable groceries will be there for all. The swift reduction in import duties on food items and increased enforcement of price controls implemented by this caring government will be nothing short of heaven sent in a timely manner. Some of those food items include the everyday necessities, such as eggs, chicken, flour, cheese, corn, processed meats, such as ham, salami, and corned beef. Madam President, I love the strong will of the Bahamian people. I can vividly recall them angrily expressing their rights to be afforded healthy food items at a reasonable price during the pandemic. The reduction on import duties on healthy foods is here. You would go to the grocery store, Madam President, you will be able to get your fresh kale, Madam President, vegetables, plant-based milks, and drinks. These items will now be available at an affordable price for every Bahamian. Madam President, true leadership is powered by common sense. We have gotten a small taste of what the cost of living will be in the midst of a global inflation. It affects us all. In our way forward budget, our Prime Minister is executing his mission on helping the Bahamian people to cope with the cost of living by providing investments in agriculture through our Bahama land. This will allow us to increase our food security so that we will never have to be faced with the struggle of price increases or necessities again. Notwithstanding the realities, Madam President, we are still faced with inevitable inflation on certain items, like fuel and other commodities. The common sense thinking that guided our government was to secure in this 2022 budget funding to increase the minimum wage for all public servants, with the private sector to follow suit. And I heard my brother Lyburn speak about this in his contribution yesterday. Providing a fighting chance for Bahamians during these difficult times. Yes, Madam President, it has been a long time coming to increase minimum wage. But minimum wage is here now, and the increase is here. But what better time, Madam President, than right now? There is no amount of money that we can offer to repay the diligence and dedicated doctors and nurses and all of the healthcare providers who placed their families aside and stepped up to the plate during COVID-19 pandemic. None, Madam President.
Heroes, man. Heroes.
Our brilliant teachers who did their utmost best to strategically keep the brains of our future leaders engaged with minimal resources under pressure-filled conditions, Madam President, many of which most of us weren't even aware. There is no amount of money we can repay our teachers for their efforts, Madam President. However, in this 2022 budget, the Davis administration saw the necessity to give them their flowers now. Our New Day government has allocated funding to increase the salary of teachers and to provide a retention bonus for all teachers and nurses. It is the least that we can do. But what about our men and women in blue? Do they not deserve their flowers? Madam President, in an era where public confidence in our police officers is low, now is the time to uplift them and show our appreciation to the unappreciated. They too had to leave their families and serve during the pandemic. Prison officers, defense force officers, and immigration officers, they all left their families and loved ones. Let us remember that we were provided the highest level of protection while in the comfort of our beds, due to the reality that they, like the doctors and nurses, left their families and were also out of their beds. Officers of our Customs Department, yes, our Customs Department, Madam President, who kept the borders open 24/7, allowing our economy to stay afloat by collecting taxes. They too deserve their flowers. It was the custom officers who were at the borders to clear the vaccines for the doctors and nurses to administer to our people, providing them the opportunity to live throughout the pandemic, resulting in lives saved. Our entire uniform branch did their part for our country, Madam President. The strategy taken of creating and building opportunities under our administration defines the way forward we are all seeking better, Madam President. I never felt so proud to be a part of a government that is so focused on losing itself in the service of its people. $10 million allocated for a new catastrophic healthcare program, assisting long-term dialysis patients with other medical issues is underway, Madam President. Housing opportunities, affordable for young professionals and average Bahamians. For years, everyone will have, in 4 years, everyone will have a house. I can hear the member for Elizabeth right now, Madam President. You get a home, you get a home, you get a home. We are well on our way, Madam President.
Give me a lollipop. Give me a lollipop.
Albuquerque, Grand Bahama, the rebuilding process is persistent and will continue to be until we get both economies back up and running. The minister responsible for the two islands have been given the substantial task that they will not have to tackle alone. You see, we are a hold the nail and I hammer kind of government, which is an example of governance we encourage any government to exercise. The undertaking of construction and renovation of schools throughout the chain of islands and keys is underway. Our matriarch, the Minister of Education, is still working, Madam President. She touched the hearts of children whose incapable voices, visions, and hearing impairments that went forgotten for far too long when she announced the implementation of a proper register to provide the necessary assessments and help for our children and young people with special needs. We are getting intricate, Madam President. Our government acknowledged the dire need of special need teachers on the family islands. The relief is coming. Still touching on special needs, Madam President, and disabilities, this new day government, already a new, well-loved Minister of Public Service, mentioned in her comprehensive budget contribution our government's initiative to provide Bahamians with disabilities a permanent space across our public sector to contribute in service. Were appropriate, just like the typical Bahamian, providing them a chance to be independent. That's all they ever wanted, Madam President. Acceptance and inclusion. To the single parent. Let me repeat that. To the single parents who are enduring the challenging task of raising a child with special needs and disabilities. There will be no more need to migrate to a different country just to afford your child true chances for a better life. This administration will open that door for these opportunities. The minister responsible for social services alluded to that, and Mr. Henfield, you know what I'm talking about. And so, you know, it's about time, you know. And we're working on more of that. Alluded to that when the Minister of Social Services alluded to that when he shared the story during his contribution of the young man with a disability is now working along with the Urban Renewal Small Home Repairs Program. This is how you define acceptance and inclusion. I think, Senator Russell, you had something to do with that too? Thank you, my brother. The road to full recovery will not be accomplished overnight, Madam President. It is a process, but I can assure you that it is near. Bahamians are starting to feel the relief provided by our New Day government in ways never thought would come under previous administration. Madam President, we made an oath to serve the Bahamian people. That includes addressing their concerns, no matter how small. The concern about land reform is an issue throughout our islands. There are Bahamians who have occupied land by building homes and planting trees and farms, etc. And they have been occupying these lands for quite some time, Madam President, with no proper titles. I am assured that we will look at all of these cases and will deal with it accordingly. And I received permission from the member of Mangrove Key in St. Andrews to speak about it. Yes, Madam President, we aren't a government that has all the answers yet, but we are a government that acknowledges the concerns of its people and will do our best to address them all. The Deputy Prime Minister's office is located at the very beginning of Bay Street, Madam President. While working late hours, doing the people's business, we have observed a significant number of undesirables who flock to the Bay Street area when the sun goes down, all of whom we've learned are homeless. It has been happening for years. We have a problem of homeless in our country, Madam President, and the first step of fixing a problem is to first acknowledge that there is a problem. The time is now to openly talk about these issues. Madam President, I was also advised that you will be surprised of the number of homeless that come to Bay Street on a nightly basis to seek shelter. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was an accident on Bay Street where a homeless man was killed right at the red light. We must fix this problem. As I near my conclusion, I wish to echo the words of Deputy Prime Minister Cooper in reminding my fellow Bahamians that 60 cents of every dollar comes from tourism. While we work on investing in the different ministries to assist the Ministry of Tourism in sustaining our economy, tourism, Madam President, is definitely everybody's business. I wish to take this time to thank the staff of the Ministry of Tourism as well for such an amazing job that they are doing. We appreciate you. As I conclude my budget presentation, I wish to note that naysayers may go on and on, Madam President, about how repetitive our speeches are pertaining to our accomplishments over the last few months. But what they fail to realize is repetition is the key learning aid, because it helps transition a skill from conscious to subconscious. Through repetition, a skill is practiced and rehearsed over time and gradually becomes easier. This is a lesson, Madam President, a lesson lectured on losing yourself in the service of others. Madam President, I support this budget and thank the government of the Bahamas. God bless you and God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
As many, the chair recognizes Senator, firstly, I'd like to thank Senator the Honorable Randy Roll for his contribution to the budget. The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Hetfield.
Thank you, Ma'am. Madam President, I thank you for this opportunity. Please permit me to congratulate the outgoing Commissioner of Police, Mr. Paul Roll, for a job well done during very, very trying times, for his service to this country. A lot of people don't appreciate how many sacrifices people like Paul Roll and others make when they assume these offices. I saw him on TV the other night. I think it was on Jerome Sawyer's show. And he talked about how his wife was transferred as a nurse to another island, and he had 3 children, and he was working in an area of the police force that was very demanding. And he wound up being father and mother to these children. And you know, people see you walk up through the echelons of these organizations, and they don't understand, they don't see the sacrifice that had to be put in. I'm very pleased to note that the government has appointed him ambassador to the IMO, which I think is a fitting appointment for a man like Paul Roll. I wish somebody could help me now. I salute you, sir. I'd also like to congratulate incoming Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernanda on his appointment, and I wish him Godspeed as he assumes the helm of the police force at a very challenging and trying time in our country's history. I wish you all the best. you and your new team, and I know you will get the job done. I want to say to my boyhood friend, Alfredo Cornish, who lost his granddaughter in a traffic accident in Dundastown a few nights ago, that I heard about it. I should have called, I didn't call, but I'll use this opportunity to send you my love and condolences. My brother, I don't know what to say in a time like this, except to say that I'm praying for you and encouraging others to do so. And God be with you. You know, I believe my colleague, the Attorney General, may have missed his call. He may have missed his call. He can quite well go on Broadway and and put the best of them to shame. I assure you. I assure you. I'm just about to start now, but yeah. No, we okay. You didn't see all the theatrics and, huh? And be brave, right?
Let's get that clip.
Yeah. He's my friend, you know. Yeah. But indulge me, please, just one more second. Fatherhood, you know, I spoke on the day when the fathers visited. My father, Bishop Henfield, could not visit because he had a dental appointment. Fatherhood is a peculiar thing. Fathers never, ever get an opportunity to receive the accolades as mothers do. And you always know in the house, because we all did this growing up, that if there was a slight rift, whose side the boys will drift on, and you get it very early. But there's no blueprint for fatherhood. And so you do your best. Sometimes you succeed. Sometimes you think you're not succeeding, and you are. You know, I was raised in a house of strict discipline, and I raised my sons, the three of them, the same way. And I'm very, very proud of them. But nothing gave me more joy than to hear my granddaughter say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, mom, no, mom. That said to me that we managed to, Deidre and I managed to pass on that spirit of manners and love and respect that my grandmother taught me would take you around the world. She always said this, you know, you don't have to be the smartest man in the world, but if you have manners and respect, it will take you around the world. And I lived long enough to see that come to a reality. And so fathers, keep doing what you do. Doesn't matter that they sometimes appear as if they're not listening or watching. They are. You won't always get it right, but when you get it wrong, you got to be man enough to say and move on. I thank you, Madam President. I'm truly pleased to be able to participate in this 2022-23 budget debate. As we heard directly from the mover of the bills in this place, this is a $3.368 billion budget that projects revenue at $2.7 billion. The deficit is projected to be $564 million, apart from the traditional means of raising money, which is tourism, taxes and financial services, etc. We intend to raise revenue in the carbon credit markets and the orange and green and blue economies, and enforcing tax collection, something we know has always been an issue and challenge in the Bahamas. For really near 50 years, we couldn't get people to pay. I wish you well, Minister, in that effort. And so the government is asking the Bahamian people to place their trust and faith in the notion that we will somehow miraculously inspire in areas that we have never seriously explored. But suddenly where they hope to find that proverbial little leprechaun guarding that proverbial pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, fueled by carbon credits, inspired by orange and green and blue economies, in a world on the brink of recession. Simply put, Madam President, it lacks this budget lacks the necessary imagination to stimulate domestic and/or foreign investment, I'm advised, which is down 60%. I just saw another document which said that we joined another club. Not a good club, but I'll leave that one there. Growth, which is so much needed in a struggling and anemic economy. As such, we on this side, as you've heard all last week, and the other place, and for the last 3 days in this place, as well as noted economic analysts like the IMF, cannot find reasons for great optimism for revenue projections in this new budget.
Senator Handfield.
Madam President.
The chair recognizes Senator Piscloff.
Thank you. Madam President, I rise on a point of order.
What is your point of order, please?
My colleague just mentioned a document, and I just wonder if he cared to share that document.
Table, whether or not he wants to table the document? Is that what you're referring to? No, wait, just let me understand. Let me understand
what I am referring to, because I didn't understand the point.
Pardon me?
I didn't understand the point, so I wonder if you care to expand.
Okay, all
Or
right.
share that document.
Thank you. Senator Handfield, can you assist the chair?
No, Mom, I don't understand the point either.
Did you refer to a document earlier? Because I,
In my phone that I said I didn't want to use. So, yeah,
yeah, what,
because I'm debating.
wait,
I
you
have
said
the
that
liberty
there's,
to speak on anything I wish to speak on.
Senator Handfield, can you speak to the chair, please?
So strike it from the records.
Speak it
I saw a document, strike that from the records. If that's what we want to do here today, that's fine.
Okay.
That's
So
fine. Strike it from the record.
you're withdrawing the comments with respect to the
No,
document?
I'm not. No, I'm not.
You mentioned a document earlier. Are you prepared to table the document that you mentioned earlier?
No, I'm not.
You're not mentioning the document.
No, I'm not. I'm not tabling it, and I'm not withdrawing on it. I'm not, and I don't mean to be facetious, but I mean that's a trite point, insignificant point, very trite. I felt like saying it. You say a lot of things when
Okay,
you're on your feet.
Senator Handfield,
You
speak
say a
to
lot
the
of
chair,
things
please.
when you're on your feet. May I continue?
Please proceed, thank you.
It is our considered view, therefore, that you will have to increase taxes and or borrow to achieve your goals. Or perhaps through all of these PPPs and other things that the AG mentioned this morning. It's a pity he didn't lay the government's policy on PPPs so that it could be shared with the wider community, and others would know how they could participate in this newfound wealth that Bahamians should be able to access at the end of the day. What is really scary for us on this side, though, is that the total $3.368 billion estimated in total spending, recurrent and capital collectively, I'm advised, would be the highest in our nearly 50-year existence as a country. I don't say that with ignorance, knowing how you got there. I know how you got there. We all know how you got there. These are the vicissitudes of life that come upon governments. But it begs the question, why drive us even more deeply into debt if things are so good in this newly inspired economy of ours? After all, we are told every day, just heard here, forcefully put by the Attorney General, that we are in a rapidly recovering economy. I'm advised that when things are good, I'm no economist, I leave that to my colleague here. When things are good and money making, the deficit should be trending downwards, not spiraling in the wrong direction. Madam President, permit me to address this constant refrain of our administration's non-engagement with the international community during our term in office. Tried to do it the other day. It pains me that I got to take time to do it now. But nonetheless, we are where we are. It is my considered view that this relatively new government, which has likely traveled more time times in 9 months than we have in 4 years, has been building this erroneous narrative that they are re-engaging the international community. You see, it is difficult for them to explain the massive additional 4.1 million in travel expenses in the upcoming fiscal year. So they continue to make this red herring argument which suggests that we didn't interact sufficiently with the international community. That's just a lie. Not true. They know that upon the arrival of COVID-19 pandemic, sometime in March 2020, the international community conducted its affairs virtually. I mean, everybody know that. So I wish to share a number of our administration's engagement in the international community. In June 2017, I will table these documents, if you permit me at the end, to support what I'm saying to you now. In June 2017, I attended the 47th Organization of the American States, OAS, General Assembly. I think I went twice, Mexico and Washington, because they had some issues with Venezuela and Nicaragua. So there was a special session called in Mexico. In February 2018, just ahead of the 29th Intersessional Meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, Prime Minister Minnis led a delegation of cabinet ministers to hold talks with Haitian officials led by President Jovenel Moïse. May God keep him resting in peace. To discuss trade, the economy, immigration, agriculture, and technical cooperation. Previous government had done this before, and we thought it was a good idea to continue it because it was done for the sole purpose of mitigating the influx of migrants that we get coming from Haiti every other day now, it seems, right? We felt if you make opportunities available in Haiti or work with some other contractual arrangements where they can come here and work legally, we could keep them motivated to stay at home. And that was the reason why we went. You know, when you share borders with people, you have to do things to try and lift the burden because you're going to share the burden. In September 2018, I delivered our country's statement at the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, and it was the first one for our administration upon coming into office in May. In April 2018, Prime Minister Minnis led the Bahamian delegation to attend the CHOGM in London. And everybody know when you go to these meetings, if you've ever been to them. Yeah, that's fine. I have no issue with that. That's fine. He has to attend these meetings. But don't say we didn't go, so you could go. Just do your thing. Just do your thing, man. You know, I'd never interfere with how a government tries to implement its policies, because at the end of the day, they have a mandate to run the country. But just leave us out of it. That's all I said. That's all I said. Right? And so when you go to these meetings, there are multiplicity of meetings that you have to do, bilateral meetings, multilateral meetings, business meetings. And a country needs these kind of things. All right?
Senator Handfield, focus on the chair. Speak to the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
And you won't get in any trouble.
In May 2018, I hosted and chaired CARICOM's Council for Foreign and Community Relations, COFCO, right here in Nassau. Right here in Nassau, where we had 29 different countries that attended. Our special guest was from Canada, a human rights specialist, retired lawyer, judge, who came to New Providence and sat here with it. You know what is amazing? You just got to Google, you know. Just got to Google and that's what I did. Forced me to go back and Google some things because, you know, your memory, sometimes you don't recall all. In March 2019, Prime Minister Minnis, along with other Caribbean and Latin American leaders, attended a high-level meeting with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. In September 2019, just weeks after Dorian, Prime Minister Minnis delivered our national statement in which he urged the nations of the world to treat the global climate emergency as the greatest challenge facing humanity. So, Prime Minister's talking about climate change and its impact on the country and small island developing states, this is not a novel idea. I am happy that the Prime Minister has decided to take up this problem, right? I'm happy. But it's good that he's doing it, but he's not the first to do it. He's not the first to do it. That's the point that I'm trying to make. It was done by Prime Minister Ingram before him. It was done by Prime Minister Christie before him. Maybe they didn't do it as much. Maybe they didn't travel as much to do it, right? And maybe it's his mandate, right? But it is not a novel idea. And I applaud his efforts for it. And I hope to God he finds a way to get the kind of that we need, because this is an existential threat that we need to find answers to. But just do your do. Just do your do. That's all I want to say. In September 2020, Prime Minister Minnis was forced to deliver our national statement virtually because the Assembly, UNGA, was held virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Likewise, in October 2020, I was elected as president to chair the 50th regular session of the Organization of American States, and I chaired the meetings virtually. So, not because you're not popping in and off of an airplane, it means that you're not engaging the international community. Far from it. Far from it. In April 2021, I participated in a virtual meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, and it was on the 16th of April, I remember, because we share a birthday in common. Along with other ministers of CARICOM, and we discussed the COVID-19 pandemic and its economic impact on the region, highlighting areas for cooperation, including security, democracy, human rights, and combating climate change. In May 2021, ground was broken on the site of the Central Abaco Community Center, Hurricane Shelter, and it was done so because in September 2019, India, at the United Nations, granted us $1 million to do something in construction toward resilience. And so we were able to convince them that this hurricane shelter / community center would be a good project for India to invest in on behalf of Bahamians. And this happened at the India CARICOM leaders meeting for this project. That's $1 million. I want you to keep coming. That's $1 million. In July 2021, I signed the second of 2 bilateral agreements. The first was signed in 2019, I believe it was, which gifted the Bahamas $24 million towards a national development project. That's 25 million. And I believe that's going to be used. I have the documents today. I believe that's going to be used on the sports center. The only reason why we didn't get it going before was because our policy was that if you come in here to work, no, this is true. I mean, I was kind of hesitant to get into it. We said to the Chinese government, if you come into the Bahamas and you're granting us a gift to work, we will have 70% Bahamians employed and 20% anybody else. And so that was a sticking point for us. That was a policy decision that we made, right? So, Madam President, before I leave this subject, though, please permit me to list some other things we did in this regard. In the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Dorian, apart from some 1,500 NGOs we permitted to render assistance to Abaco and Grand Bahama, we received visits from the Secretaries General of the United States, the Organization of American States, and the Commonwealth. We re-engaged the United States in talks toward meeting our shared maritime boundaries. Through diplomacy, we were able to convince our friends in Cuba to assist with the apprehension of 3 Dominican poaching vessels, motherships, seeking to evade arrest by fleeing into Cuban waters. And that is significant. Just on the other day, we celebrated Flamingo. And if you know the history, Flamingo was in the course of arresting Cuban vessels, which fled into, were trying to escape us. And we had this issue where you could not pursue them beyond your territorial boundaries. And so when we came to office, you know, we started talking to the Cubans very seriously about this. I think it's in Article 4 of our agreement, our delimitation agreement, which requires that we look after each other's maritime resources. And they were not meeting this part of the article. And so we said, listen, we have a shared responsibility here. So help us out. So we spoke at the prime ministerial and presidential level, and we spoke at the ministerial level every time I saw the Cuban foreign minister. And finally, we got it done. They are, but they are friends. They are friends. And so we built upon the relationship between our security forces that we met in place. It was happening for years. And we said to them, you got to talk more so that you can know each other. You got to meet more. Yes, poquita. Right? In 2020, the United Kingdom reestablished its High Commission in the Bahamas following a 15-year absence. And we ain't do nothing in foreign. Come on. You know, when we went to Shogam, the current Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson, was the foreign minister. And I said to Boris, listen, man, you gotta come back. But now that's not just based on my conversation with him. Yeah. He's my friend, right? And I pray for him every day. Yeah, no, he can be okay. He's doing a great job in the UK, right? Doing a great job. He's gonna be okay, right? He's gonna be okay. And he said, Darren, I'm going to. Now that may have something to do with Brexit, right? Because he was now coming back to himself and he had to go but that's the way these things work. You know, that's the way these things work. In an effort to engage the Bahamian diaspora, and I love that you're doing this, you're continuing with this, because we met it in place, we wanted to intensify it, and you're continuing with it, and this is great. This is great for our country, right? We met the Bahamians, and the Prime Minister was with these delegations in Atlanta, in Washington, in Houston, and in Florida. On each occasion, we try to get the local Bahamians to bring out the junkanoo, the goat skin. You know about that, eh? Yeah, you know about that. So you should correct some of these things. They perform. I didn't see you. Now, I met Bahamians in Dubai and in New York. You all shouldn't let them just travel all the time. You all should go sometimes. Don't just leave you all home here working. Yeah. So the moral of the story is you don't always have to travel everywhere to get things done in international relations. That's the only moral of the story. We were more concerned with recovery after Hurricane Dorian and finding solutions for Bahamians furloughed because of the impact of COVID-19 upon our economy. And so if we fail to attend every meeting, I'm sorry. When I went to the foreign ministry, they'd come and they'd say, Minister, you gotta go here. So I say, why? And so they said, we will always go there. I say, why? And they must have said, this little fella come from the defense force, he crazy. He can't understand what's going on. I said, unless you have a meeting for me to attend, or the Prime Minister, that inures or benefits our security or economy, and you don't figure out the answer, don't come back. And so, yes, I may have said, I'm not going to that meeting. I may have said that once or twice. Because if you ain't benefiting the Bahamas in its economy or its security, how are you going to benefit Bahamians? Just to say you have us there? In putting the state of our economy into perspective, Prime Minister Davis, Minister of Finance, said the following as he presented his government's draft estimates of revenue and expenditure for the fiscal year 2022-2023, and I quote, Bahamians will well remember that the country was in the throes of the worst health crisis and worst economic crisis in living memory, end quote. The Prime Minister was right. During the last nearly 3 years or so now, we've been forced to deal with the most challenging circumstances in our modern history. You know, and the things that we dealt with, we didn't have no playbook for them, you know. And these were acts of God, force majeure. And I don't question when God acts. We respond in the best way that we think we should. There were no circumstances for which we had a blueprint or files to consult. I hear people talk about how we managed COVID. When COVID came here, there was no vaccine, no demand. So our first instinct was, lock you down, safeguard you from dying. That was our first instinct. There was no vaccines. And so y'all come at a good time. Y'all come at a good time when more than what? 50-some% of the population inoculated? That's water under the bridge. That's why you're here now. It's water under the bridge. That's water under the bridge. That's water under the bridge. I can sit down until I get some protection. Oh boy.
Senator Henfield, that must be a joke. That must be a commercial break, huh?
No blueprint for COVID. And you know what we did was not novel in the Bahamas. It was done all over the world. In fact, Shanghai just came out of a lockdown. Still going on. All over the world. But we brought the pandemic here and we locked down and destroyed the economy. How laughable. When we came to office in May 2017, we found an economy teetering on the edge. We were at negative growth and getting worse as we suffered downgrade after downgrade with no way of escape in sight. No way. Madam President, whilst in office, I'll share a couple of things that we did because I believe it may be instructive for Bahamians to hear. We moved with discipline to stabilize the economy and achieve some growth in the first 2 years. We did that, you know, Peter Turnquest, I want to congratulate you, my brother, if you're watching. Yeah. I believe you did a fantastic job whilst minister with responsibilities for finance in our country. Keep your head up, brother. Keep your head up. Tourists came in unprecedented numbers. I remember when I used to hear Dionisio Diagla talking about millions and millions and millions of tourists. I remember when that happened, you know. I mean, that's my friend. He's my friend. I remember when I went to Abaco one time and they didn't have sufficient rooms for people, and so people were renting and sleeping on boats. And I wish I had a boat or something for them to sleep on. We brought crime down to manageable levels. Now you could find reasons to say why. Yeah, but that does not change the fact that crimes were down to manageable levels before we start locking down. Before we start locking down. We negotiated the monetization of our airspace. What I hear you say you can spend now. And the problem here is you don't say thanks. You don't say thanks. Yeah, I worked on that. Lauren Klein and I worked on that at the AG's office. But I would say, you know, yeah. But you know, say thanks. Yeah, that's all you gotta say, man, sometimes. We negotiated, navigated what we believe will be the catalyst to the revitalization of downtown Nassau and that cruise port. See it coming up out the ground? That's right. Popping up out the ground. You get to cut the ribbon. And you know, I hope when you cut the ribbon, I hope Bahamian people flourish because of it. We don't have to all I'm trying to say is we don't have to demonize each other to go to certain places. We don't have to do that. We engaged in the largest social assistance program in the history of the Bahamas, which included feeding Bahamians and funding Bahamians and those sort of work. I applaud what you're doing with Bishop Hanschel, Bishop Rule, and Bishop Moss. I applaud that. But Minister, I ask you to consider form who does a lot of great work in the community, looking after victims of crime and young women who find themselves in distress. I think the young lady's name is Gibson, Candy Gibson. Please consider her efforts. I mean, she's a real crime interrupter. If you're looking for crime interrupters, she's a real one. We preserved the public service jobs and didn't lay off one single public servant when they were all over this region sending public servants home by the droves. Madam President, the realities of the killer storm, Hurricane Dorian, the worst of its kind in our modern history, and the arrival of COVID-19 just 6 months later, they simply cannot be ignored. That is why, in following our leaders' mandate, because governments don't know what they can get, you know. We on this side, we've taken the posture that we will not oppose just for the sake of opposing. You don't hear us do that. We're looking for a new political climate in the Bahamas. You know, we don't just oppose for opposing's sake. We don't do that. If you do something good, we applaud it. But it is our job, if you introduce a policy and read the official opposition of the Bahamas, it is our job to put the other view. This policy may work a little bit better. You can take it or you can leave it, but it is our duty to do so. And so you will hear us applaud the policies that we believe are in the best interest of the Bahamian people. But when we feel otherwise, we raise our voices and we make our case. Madam President, there is no way that I can treat with the issues of the government simply ignoring legislation enacted to safeguard the public purse near as adequately as my colleagues before me. But it would be remiss of me to sit and not touch the subject. Must be noted that these laws were introduced to cause discipline in government spending. We were seeking a transition from a system ruled by administrative bureaucrats to a principle-based approach in the management of public funds. Despite a steady diet of talk on the importance of transparency and openness and accountability, the government continues to break the law with impunity. If you're not doing so, I could sit down now and you could tell me why. I'll yield. It is my considered view that the government can accomplish each of these laudable and highly respected democratic aspirations of accountability and transparency and openness by simply following the law. Follow the law. I welcome the debate on the Evidence Act to expedite the claims of the families of those lost in the storm. They're my people. And I applaud you for bringing that act. But the suite of legislation that we put in place to assist with the management of the public funds, which includes the Fiscal Responsibility Act, the Debt Management Act, and the Procurement Act, were enacted to do just that, to give you openness and transparency and accountability, to protect you. That's what it was put in place for. Yet after 9 months in office, nothing but complete obstinance and cricket when it comes to this law. By so doing, this government, which is now suddenly the paragon of virtue, will make all of this talk about transparency and accountability and much, much more than just good political rhetoric. Madam President, instead, this is what the Prime Minister said when asked about why these laws are not enacted. Well, he offered this. During the first half of the fiscal year, legislation will be brought to this honorable House to amend and improve the Public Procurement Act, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, the Public Financial Management Act. My question, though, Madam President, through you to the Honorable Attorney General, is what are we following now if we are not following the laws of the land? What are we following? They shouldn't do that to you.
Obey it until you change it.
How does a government with a constitutionally appointed attorney general just determined to ignore laws and get on with business as usual without batting an eye? I know my friend better than that. So when you hear people talk about this collective and all the rest of it, there's some considerations that you must make. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I take that. Broad shoulders. There's no problem with that. I'd do it again if I had to help my country. He who comes to equity must come with good, clean hands. If you want transparency, accountability, and openness, the law is actually instituted to move us toward these noble democratic goals and principles. Madam President, Section 7 of the Debt Management Act requires the establishment of a debt management office, which includes the management of the public debt portfolio, the development and implementation of the debt management office, and monitoring of the implementation of the debt management strategy and the annual borrowing plan. The objectives of the Fiscal Responsibility Act are clearly defined in Section 2 of the Act as follows. Fiscal objectives mean the measurable fiscal indicators for the fiscal policy to achieve the fiscal responsibility principles formulated in accordance with the first schedule and stated in the fiscal strategy report. All I'm saying is, remove this noose from around your necks and implement the tenets of the law. As I leave this point, just let me say this. We don't have an issue with the settlement of the judgments. What we do take exception to is that the judgments will be settled and we will be told as if we were in some private practice that the settlements are sealed. And it's the people's money, they got to pay for it. They should know what we settled with who. That's all I'm saying. The people who got to pay this bill, we're gonna finish with this point right here. You know, the people should know what we settled. If the court rendered judgments, that's the law of the land. Court do what they think is fair and judicious. But all I'm saying is that people should know what we paid and whom we paid. Right there is a good, convenient place, Mr. Leader.
Madam President, this is a convenient time to take the luncheon suspension, following which Senator Hempfield will continue his contribution. So I wish to move that, Madam President, that the business of the Senate do suspend until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Is there a seconder? Second. It has been moved and second that the business of the Senate is suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon. As many as in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is carried. The business of the Senate is suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Manifest needs time to rewrite its presentation.
No, man.